Right guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. In this one I'm just going to be showing you how to bleed your Shimano 105 R7120 levers, and that's with the R7120 hydraulic calipers. So let's go ahead, let's take a look. So here we are at the caliper end. So we've got the cover over here, this is rubber cover, that one there is your, so you just get that out of there, that's your where your hose goes onto to bleed it on there. And then you've got your other one here, which is your 3mm Allen key, which goes in there like that, which obviously does your bleed screw in there to undo it and do it up in there. So what we've got at this end, obviously, now what I'm doing, and this is entirely up to you, I'm bleeding it as you see it here with the disc in place and the pads in there as it would be if you was riding the bike. I'm not using the bleed block. See, this is bleed block, you remove your pads out of there and you've got a bleed block in there which stops the pistons moving, just goes in there, and obviously you remove your wheel out the way and that goes in there. Now if you want to bleed it with that in there, then bleed it with that in there. I always bleed it like this because it's how you use it on the road. You don't ride a bike with a bleed block in there and the pistons aren't moving. With this in there, you ride it as it is there. So do it however you want to do it. So what I've got here is, I've just got a piece of hose there into a little bottle like that, clear plastic bottle, small one. If you just look at anything in your supermarket or whatever, just see a bottle like that, a small one, and drill a hole in the lid to accept a piece of hose. That doesn't have to be clear, but it helps to see the air. Then obviously what that'll do is that will go over. It wants to be a tight fit on your, if the hose is quite tight, all you've got to do is warm the end of the hose up to get it to fit nicely on there, so as it actually stays in place. And then on this particular one, all I've got is you can just fit it with a length of wire like that, and then if you want to, then you can clip it over your wheel or clip it on your caliper to stop it falling off if you get a bit of fluid in there and it starts to get a little bit heavy. So that's on this end, so we'll leave it like that. We'll just put the hose on there and I'll show you up on obviously the lever end what we're going to do there. So here we are at the lever end. Now all I've got is the hood pulled back like that, and then I've just got a cable tie there that goes round and just literally just holds it there to keep it out of the way. And then see bleed cover there, bleed port cover, that's just a 2.5mm hex Allen key. So you want to just crack that undone, and then if you can remove that out of there, put it somewhere safe so you don't lose it, so you'll be able to see a little bit of fluid in there. And then what we'll do is we'll get the bleed cup and screw that in. So here we have a bleed cup with the adapter for road levers on the bottom there, this piece. So all we do is go ahead and then just screw that into where that cover came out of. Just be careful with this, you're not cross threading it or anything. So we just do that up like that. Just nip it up with your fingers. And then remove the top, the lid on it. I'll show you in there. So remove the lid, and inside there you just got a plunger in the middle like that stops the fluid. If you pull it out, obviously fluid will go through. If you put that plunger back in the middle there, it shuts off the fluid like that. So what I'll do is, using Shimano hydraulic mineral oil, we'll fill that cup up nearly to the top there. With the plunger still in it a minute, we'll just fill it up for now. Make sure you use the genuine Shimano oil for this. You may see some other red fluid being sold in clear bottles or whatever like that. Don't buy any of that, because I can guarantee that that's not the proper oil. That'll just be automatic transmission fluid from a car. If you smell it, the genuine stuff doesn't smell at all, and that the cheap stuff will absolutely stink. So always use the genuine stuff in there. So we got that filled up there like that, with the plunger still in the middle. Obviously we got the bike tilted down, because if you got it normal riding, see this would be at an angle, so you won't be able to get so much fluid in. So the bike's tilted down like that, so this is almost flat. So we go down to the caliper, and I'll show you what to do down there. So what we've done is we pulled the plunger out of the bleed pot, so the fluid's ready to obviously come through. So what we're going to do first, now say if you was bleeding yours and it wasn't new, what you do is like run one full pot through into here, and then dispose of the first one to clean the system through with new fluid, and then you carry on from there. Obviously this is brand new, so any fluid that comes into here, we're just going to transfer it back into the bleed pot at the top. So all I'll do is go on to the bleeder there. Like I said, 3mm Allen key. Then we'll undo that like that. Just crack it undone. Just undo it a little bit like that. And as you see, there's fluid coming through. You see that fluid going down. So what I've done is cracked it undone enough. Don't need to undo it a lot, just so that fluid's coming out. Obviously you don't want to undo that screw here for the bleed point a long way, like undo it a lot, because you'll introduce air through the bleed screw itself, and there'll be air coming out of the hose then through there. So you just want to crack it undone till you see fluid coming through. And then now we've cracked that undone, it's just going to gravity bleed through. So I'm not touching anything, all I'm doing is just crack that undone, and then this fluid's just slowly coming through, and all I'm doing is watching the bleed cup up on the lever. So you want to watch that, keep an eye on it, and obviously it will go down slowly, and just make sure that it doesn't run out. So before it empties, with a little bit left in the bottom, make sure you stop it before it empties out, because otherwise you're just introducing obviously air back into the shifter. So you want to catch it before it does that. So as you can see there, that's it dripping out into the bottle down by the caliper. So it's just steadily dripping out. So all we're doing here is we're just gravity bleeding it. So the gravity is obviously taking the fluid down, and out here we're not touching anything, we're not pumping the lever. Haven't even touched the lever once at all. It's just going to bleed it down like that for the first initial bleed. So if you have got air or a big airlock or something in the system, you could be pumping the lever with this open here. You could just be pumping the lever for ages and nothing's going to happen. You'll be wondering why there's no fluid coming through. You know, you could pump it 100 times and nothing's going to happen. The lever's just going to go straight back to the bar if you've got a big airlock in there or any air in there. So by doing this, you just open it up and let it come through on its own. Don't touch anything. And sometimes if you've got a lot of air in it, you'll just see the bubbles coming down, streaming down here. Obviously this is new, so we haven't introduced too much air into it. But if you had a brand new hydraulic hose and it was just, there was no fluid in the hose, then if you did this, you would just see nothing but air bubbles coming down all the time, as it was just gravity bleeding down into the bottle there. So it's just a good way of initially getting the fluid to come all the way through without pumping your lever or anything like that. Because like I said, you could be pumping that lever for, you know, for ages and nothing's going to happen. So what we'll do is we'll just let a bit more fluid go through, and then I'll just close off the bleed point there. So what I'll do is now just close off the bleed point on the caliper before we introduce any air in it. So we just nip that up like that, and then I'll just show you up on the bleed cup. So obviously on the bleed cup there, you can see it's nearly at the bottom. We've still got a little bit in it, like that, before it ran out. So now we've done that and we've shut that off, what I can do is, what I'm going to do is unscrew the bottle off of here, and then I'm just going to tip this fluid, because it's new, straight back into the bleed cup and fill it back up again, and I'll show you what to do next. So we've emptied the bottle back into the cup, and then what we're going to do is bleed it through. Now obviously with your Allen key we'll put that in there like that, so all we're going to do is use this to crack it open and close it back off. So just crack it open half a turn and then shut it back up again. So with the lever, what we're going to do is we'll pull the lever as though you're braking back to the handlebar, because you can go up now and feel your lever, because obviously this is shut here, so you can just feel it, see if it's any good or not. And so what we'll do is with the lever, as we squeeze the lever into the handlebar, we'll undo this to let fluid through, and then we'll close this back off again with the lever still held against the handlebar, and when we've closed this off then you can let go of the lever. So as you pull the lever towards the handlebar, you open this up, then it's right to the handlebar with this open, and then you close it back off before you let go of the lever. So all I'll do is open that and pull the lever to the handlebar like that. Now I'll shut this back off and then let go of the lever. So pull the lever and open that, then shut it back off. And you see there's air in that hose. Make out those bubbles there. So there's air coming through. You can see that or not. So there's air in there. So obviously we've got this shut, so we'll let go of the lever. Then we'll open it up. There's a load more air. Shut that off, let go of the lever. Open it up like that. Let go of the lever, open it, pull the lever, and we just keep doing that bit by bit like this until we've nearly emptied that bleed cup again by doing this method. Because as you can see, I don't know if you see it on camera or not, but there's just air coming through, tiny amounts of air, but it's still air. So we just keep going like this. Put a whole bleed cup through, and like I say, I'm doing it with the pads in place and the disc. Obviously there's no fluid anywhere, I haven't spilt a single drop of it, so you're not going to, it's impossible to contaminate anything unless you just pour fluid all over your pads, which you're not going to do. There's a load more air just come out, and some more. So we're happy with that now. That's the second cup put through using that method. So what we'll do is we go up to the bleed cup. As you can see, we've got a bit of fluid left in there. So what you do is with this plunger in the middle, put that in place, push it in there and close that off. Because if you don't, obviously you'll unscrew this and all this fluid, doesn't matter how much you got left in there. You can tip that, if it's clean, you tip it back in your bottle and keep it to use again on your rear brake, or use it again next time whenever you're doing it again. So we put that in there like that. Now the bike is slightly angled down, so this is slightly more flat here. If it was up normally it might not be as level as that, 'cause your shifter would be up like that, so the bike is angled down, tilted down a bit. When we're going to undo that out of there, then all you want to do is put a piece of cloth or rag over here whilst you undo it. So what I'll do is got hold of the actual bleed adapter there to undo it. So we just unscrew that out of the shifter like that. So that's unscrewed. See, there's the fluid still in it. And now, as you can see there, the fluid's level with the top there. So don't wipe any of that away, just put in your cover, put that back in without wiping that away. So we just get the cover there, put it in like that. Start it off like that. Obviously leave your piece of cloth there or whatever just to catch any fluid as you screw it in like that. And then with this you just nip it up, just nip this up, and I mean just as soon as it stops you just nip it down. That's all you got to do, just finger, just hardly any pressure on it whatsoever, like that. Do not over tighten that because you damage the thread in the top of the shifter body here, top of this, and then that's it. Then you will have damaged that, and you just wipe off any excess on there like that. Then we'll do the caliper. So what we'll do is disconnect this bottle, just disconnect the hose off of there. So just pull that off, a piece of cloth over it like that. Just let it go slowly off at the end, and the fluid will drain back down the hose like that into the bottle, so we can keep that and use it for the next one. In case there's any fluid, just wipe that off there like that. Then you put your rubber covers back over like that. So the larger one is for the larger centre in it, is for the bleed port where the fluid's coming out, and the one with the smaller end is for the bleed screw in there. So you put those two back on like that. Now always remember, if you're ever doing anything with the brakes, i.e. you're changing, your pads have worn down for instance, and you're going to change the pads for a new set, always remember, never push the pistons back on these calipers, never push them back, because always remember it's better to take out the bleed port cover on the shifter, because especially if you don't know, if you've never touched the bike yourself for instance, you never know if the pads have worn down, and as they've worn down somebody's topped up the fluid in the lever body up on the handlebar. If they've topped that up and the pads are worn, then obviously you're going to go and put new pads in it, so the fluid will be topped all the way up, and then when you push the pistons back to put your new pads in, because they're obviously thicker, there's nowhere for the fluid to go, so you're forcing it, the pistons back, and it can't come out the top, so it's going to blow a seal more than likely in the lever. So just be aware of that. Always just remove the cover off the port on top of your shifter before you go pushing your pistons back, just in case, just to save damaging anything. So when you're happy, you can put your hood back over and just put it back in place like that. And also just check if you fitted them new, just make sure there isn't any leaks there where you've done that up, and also just check down at the caliper end as well, just to make sure there aren't any leaks anywhere. So that should be your bleed complete. Lever should feel good, solid like that. Then obviously the rear hose, you do the same with the rear. So it's longer run of hose for the rear, so you can gravity bleed that through. So there's no right or wrong how many bleed cupfuls you need to put through the system. I'm just showing you it. You could do half a bleed cup and your lever feels absolutely perfect, when you close the bleed point off and check your lever every time you do it. So you can check your lever, it feels good, then there's no need to run the whole cup through there. You could just do half a cup and it feel good, then that's it. But if you've still got a bit of air coming out, it's worthwhile just putting a whole cup through. But say if you know, you don't have to put a second cup through, your lever might be perfect on the first one, or even half a cup even. So there's no right or wrong how many cupfuls you got to put through it. So sometimes with these calipers, the bleed point there, to undo it with your Allen key, that can be tight. So to undo, so don't worry if you're like going to undo that and you think, well, I can't undo it, because those can be actually very tight. So make sure you've got a good fitting Allen key in there to avoid rounding it off or anything like that. Or even if you've got a socket, you might be better off just using a small ratchet on it with a socket and extension to undo it if you're struggling with a normal Allen key, because they can be, like I said, tight to undo. So I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more cycle related content. Till next one, ride safe and I'll see you then.